Welcome to the Doing Good podcast, formerly known as the Common Sense Steps to Doing Good. I'm Karen Phillip, a passionate advocate for doing good. I believe in the wheel of social impact that we're preached at too much and not enough time is spent acknowledging who we actually are. I've spent my career meeting amazing do gooders, and while their work is celebrated, their humanity is often overlooked. I created this space to peel back the layers, to share our stories, our struggles, our triumphs, and the secrets to doing good better. Welcome to the Doing Good podcast. I'm your host, Karen Phillip, and today with me is Rondell Trim, a passionate do-gooder who's gone from volunteer to paid worker in the social development sector. Thank you so much for being here with me today, Rondell.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's tell everyone who is Rondell.
Well, I consider myself a youth and community development professional. But firstly, I am a young person. I show up as a young person wherever I go. I'm also the executive director of Equals, which is an organization that serves the LGBTQ plus community and other vulnerable communities on Ireland. I also am the founder of the Development Project, which assists or tries to assist young men in regards to how they perceive themselves, and also provides just support in regards to personal, professional, and educational development. We also look to engage them in like civic duty,
Okay.
national development, citizenship, and all the works in order to just make sure they could contribute to the island as much as they can. So all in all, this is really to aid with like crime prevention, just development of young people, just improving the community in Barbados, and that was the onus in regards to me starting the organization. I am also the National Youth Commissioner of the Barbados Boy Scouts Association. So I'm just really here to make sure that the organization is still grounded in young persons and their needs and wants, understanding that as the world changes, as the needs of young persons change, that the organization must change as well. So I'm just here to like just provide advice and guidance to leadership and make sure that we remain youth centric. I am also just a mentor, a peer, a friend, and a family members to persons around me. I feel like I'm missing stuff right now because I do
And you're
quite.
also a student.
Yes. Oh, yes. I am a student pursuing my master's of philosophy in gender and development. So I don't think that I'm a gender specialist yet, but I'm working to get there. So it's all about gender equality, and that's very tied into the work that I do in
Yeah.
regards to equals and both the development project. So I do quite a bit because I live my life on the slogan of how can I help? And also how can I enjoy the world while bettering it at the same time? So you see that coming out in the things that I do.
The definite a passionate do-gooder. But those were, I think, at least 5 hats you called there.
About,
About
yes.
5. So in wearing these 5 hats, if you had to unpack your doing good toolkit, what are the 3 values that you think that you carry across these 5 things?
Definitely, my first one is perseverance. It does get a bit difficult and overwhelming, like doing so many things. And I know when I speak to persons, they tell me, maybe you need to drop a hat. But I really just love doing what I'm doing. So like, although I go through a lot of challenges, trials, and tribulations, it's just for me to really sit, compartmentalize, and understand like what I have to do when I have to do it in order to be able to accomplish all the goals that I want to set out to do. Second one is being reflective. I think as I navigate my life, as like you deal with different vulnerable communities, as you talk to different persons, as you do different things, many times it causes you to really look inward, or it should encourage you to look inward and just work on yourself. Like from there, I develop things like compassion, empathy, sympathy, understanding, leadership, intelligence. But this is based upon me looking at the things that I need to get or the characteristics that I need to develop in order to serve the communities or serve the people as best as I can. So really to be of service, I have to make sure that I'm equipped with like the tools and the knowledge in order to do that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that the last one really is, and it's kind of tied into the perseverance, but just determination. So I want something, I want to do something, I want to accomplish something, and I will do it. So, for example, the development project was quite difficult to get off the ground. And the first project I'm doing, which is called Skills for Life, which is being implemented with alongside the National Peace Program at Sagicor Bank,
Okay.
has been a very tumultuous journey. It's been very difficult. I wrote the proposal like several years ago,
Oh,
but to get like support and funding, especially for someone who hadn't done it before,
yeah.
was extremely difficult. But through determination, um, continuously talking to people, being in spaces, talking about the project, etc., I found the National Peace Program to really support me throughout my journey, and then Sagicor Bank when it came on later. So it was hard work, but because I was determined to make sure that I
Yeah.
got it done, because I had a vision, I was able to finally implement it really recently.
That is really admirable.
Yeah.
That is, like, take a minute to just sit in that. That I'm real so happy for you. But let's talk about what is the thing that keeps you going. So you talk about perseverance, but what are the tools that you use in your life to be like, okay, do I take a pause when things get rough and then I start again, or do you just keep going until you achieve it?
I wouldn't say, I don't think that I'm at the level where I would call myself a perfectionist. But this ties into my toolkit in regards to determination. So when I want something, I keep going until I get it. Obviously, when the mind or the body decides that it's time for a break, it will take the break. And I'm trying to get to a point where I can recognize that I need a break before my mind and my body shuts down. So I do understand that that's not the most healthy thing that I'm engaged in right now. But so far, it's gotten me this far.
Yeah.
So it's really been a mental thing in regards to like what to like sit on a plan and to be very strategic and what you have to do in order to get goals accomplished. And I think my incessant need to assist people, which has been fostered by my parents,
Okay.
particularly my mother, and the Boy Scouts Association, like that I joined at like 6 years old. Like my passion, my conviction has always been towards like helping people or using the privilege that I have, or where I am, to make sure that persons could, I guess, get further in life or get the guidance that I may have had that they weren't able to have. So that has always been my passion, and it's turned into a goal that really pushes me and drives me forward.
To be of service to others.
Yes.
That is really amazing. So let's go again a bit more in the development project. And you talked about how you wanted to do this for crime prevention. You just talked about your work with Boy Scouts about wanting to be a mentor and ensuring that persons get the support, the village that they may not have at home, that you help create that village. So how do you see the development, or how do you see the development project, and how do you see gender playing a role in working with the men and the boys?
So my sister has always been in the gender equality sphere. So she's a staunch supporter of anything um, pushing women forward in a very patriarchal and sexist world, right? So I've always seen her work, and she's inspired me greatly. And then afterwards, I would have done some courses at university in regards to like gender development, and I was like, this is very interesting. I've always like loved history and understanding how the world works, etc. So after a while the conversation was always like, how can men participate in the fight towards gender equality? Because even in my class, I think I was the only male, or it was only one or two at that point in time. So I asked myself, how can I get involved, or become a gender champion before obviously trying to commandeer the space,
Yeah.
which is something that's very customary, like for men, because we're accustomed to being in those positions based upon the patriarchy, etc. So I was like, okay, the best thing for me to do is to talk to my peers
Yeah.
and make sure that they have the same knowledge, etc., that I have. And when I'm looking at development, I think it's best to start like from earlier ages. So, like probably when persons are in school, etc. So that was why I really devised the development project. So the target audience is really persons between like the ages of 16 and 25. So when I started the project, a lot of persons were asking like, what about the women? And when they saw things about like toxic masculinity and addressing masculinity, etc., they were also like very hesitant in order to really interact with me. Um, but the conversations in regards to toxic masculinity has always been like addressing behaviors that aren't conducive to growth, or kind of have negative impacts on society. So that we talking about aggression, not being able to handle like relationships or your emotions, etc. So I was like, how can they create a space where men or where young men are able to do this?
Yeah.
And that was I guess, the foundation of the development project. But obviously, as I did it, I realized that a lot of times to get persons from one position to the other is always about social mobility. So if you are always on the block or you're having difficulties with your education and getting a job, etc., it's very difficult for you to then sit down and talk about like your emotions, etc., when there's other things in the background serving as hindrances. So that's how the program kind of like shift and molded into something a bit more complex. So while we're talking about like how you could get from one place to another, or how you could be a better male in the community, or how you could contribute to your family or the Barbados at large, we also do things like professional development. So at this point in time, we're doing a project called Skills for Life, where we give young men a series of trades to learn from, particularly from instructors who know their lives are came from the block or
Yeah.
would move from one position to another, just so that it would improve their decision making skills in regards to job hunting. Um, and it also has like some sort of aspect of volunteering, civic responsibility, just bonding, etc. Just so that we could make sure that they are equipped to this, with the skills to move from where they are at this point in time, particularly coming from at-risk communities, just to some place where they're able to like get money, probably move from where they are at this point in time and understand that like they have a purpose, and that there's bright things ahead of them. I think that some of them are quite like demotivated in regards to like moving just because of some things that may happen in their life. So from that and from giving them something that they want,
Want
like
to achieve. And what are
yeah,
the traits that they learn?
at this point, I think they're currently learning like auto mechanics.
Uh-huh.
From then, we'll probably go on to like landscaping,
Okay.
plumbing, mixology, etc., etc. But we're just making sure that it's
Are y'all
balanced.
doing these CBQs?
Not at this point in time.
Okay.
So the purpose of the initiative is not necessarily to serve as one of the many programs that we have already that's provided by the government, but it's almost supposed to be a precursor. So we're
Oh.
giving you like a very quick preview of several trades. You're gonna pick the one that you choose, that you like the most, and then we'll support you as you pursue it.
Okay. Okay. All right. So it's more like a transition program than
This
necessarily
specific program,
program.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I get it. And I could see how that would occupy a person's time and give them the necessary skills to be more contributing members of society.
Yeah, but it also gives us the opportunity to then talk about like different things such as like communication, relationships, conflict resolution, etc., etc.
And do you
So
think that do they pay attention in those sessions, these soft skills?
they do.
They do?
Yes. It's always about how engaging these sessions are. So we are very, very, very meticulous in regards to who we choose to give these sessions. Because a lot of persons like want to facilitate, but they can't facilitate specific demographics.
Yeah.
So we try to find young persons to give these sessions. So persons who understand like the demographic that we're dealing with, or we try to find persons who are very engaging and very interactive, just so that we could make sure that we capture their attention.
Okay, I get the how that moves into the sense of crime prevention and also about shaping them and shaping, giving them opportunities and awareness of other
Yeah.
things that's available to them. You talked about, you mentioned your mother and your sister
Yes.
being your primary village, the way you were brought up, and then you talked about the scouts. Could you talk a bit more about the village that you experienced when you were growing up?
Okay. So my mother was always a very um, selfless person. So like we lived in the community. My mother was always doing things like if she cooked, she would always share out. So she was always just very kind and generous, and that was what I grew up seeing from the get go, and that kind of like set many of the characteristics that I have now.
Okay.
My mother has always been a role model for me. I emulate some of her behavior, and I embody the ones that I think she um, kind of showed that was beneficial not only to the family but to the community. And one of those was kindness, and considering the feelings and the needs of other person. So that's she's definitely played a large role in who I am, and she's shaped a lot of my behavior. My sister, she's always been an advocate and an activist. If anyone knows Roshana, like Roshana is very talkative, and if she disagrees with something, she will speak about it. And that's all often something that I aspire towards. In order that if I disagree with something, I speak my mind, and it's kind of showed up in my life in regards to like some of the initiatives that I um, show up in, or some of the things that I do, although it may not be the most popular. For example, equals, like when you're talking about the LGBTQ plus community, person will always come and tell you, how immoral, etc. it is, but I am a staunch believer of human rights,
Yeah.
and I will continue to advocate and advocate for things that I think are necessary for persons to understand that the LGBTQ community deserves all the rights given to everyone else, because it's not a crime; they're doing nothing wrong. Love is love. So I'll continue to do that as much as I can. So my mother and my sister
So yeah.
has shaped who
Shape.
I am today, and I'm very appreciative.
Yeah. So I'm listening to you, and I'm the kindness you talk about, and the service and the advocacy, and it reminds me of when I first came to Barbados. I used to volunteer. I used to go to YWCA in Deacons, and I remember a few persons being like, "But why?" And I was like, "Well, if I'm in a country and they're being nice to me, shouldn't I not be nice to them in return?" And people are like, "But why?" And I'm hearing you talk about this kindness and us and this stuff, and I fully understand it, that we can't be living in a world and just taking, that we should also try to do what's good for others, and also find ways to build the community that we're living in, right? And one of the things that stood out to me also was talking about standing up for those who may not have the voice. So can you tell me a bit more about your advocacy?
I just want to start by saying that I came from a very poor household, and it was because of my mother and many persons around us that we were able to move from where we were then to where we are now. So I recognized that I was very privileged and I had a very strong support system, even though we came from Guyana. But I also understand at the same point in time that not everybody has that support system. And when persons look at persons who are in vulnerable communities or who may come from poverty, they aren't exactly knowledgeable of how complicated it is to move from generational poverty into different positions in society. So that has always been one of the main tenets of my advocacy, understanding that we need to give persons the support system to be able to move up the ladder in life.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of the things I focus on. I also do some work, and I didn't mention this in the One Family program, which focuses on giving persons the tools, the knowledge, and the resources in order to better their life. And that is something that I kind of extend even beyond my professional journey, just into advocacy and making sure that, like, as a volunteer, etc., that not only can I serve as a mentor to give persons the knowledge about what I've experienced as I move through life, but also to just connect them to different persons that I know could potentially help them.
You mentioned that you're actually originally from Guyana. I don't know if many people know that.
I think they do.
You
I
think
think
that
they
they
do.
do?
Yeah.
How has life been? So I know that's a different layer to it,
Yeah.
right? Because that's one of the things when I was volunteering as well. People are like, "Well, you just passing through the country, like why?" And then I came, I think, 15 years ago, and the climate was a bit different to non-nationals. Granted, I came with a certain privilege as being a student versus coming in to be somebody who's living, or well, we know how it was with the Guyanese and the Barbados community. So I don't know if you want to talk a bit about navigating doing good while being a non-national.
It hasn't been that it hasn't been excessively difficult for me in comparison to like my sister or my mother.
Okay.
So for example, my mother still has a very strong not, she still has a very strong accent, so you could automatically tell that she's Guyanese. I came
Okay.
from like really, really young, so I don't have the accent.
Yeah.
So that kind of gave me like a barrier, like a social grace. So it's only like when I was in school and like some of the teachers knew that I was Guyanese, I would kind of get a bit of flack for that. So I still remember, and it's something I won't ever forget. Like, I was at school. I was kind of a I wasn't I was pretty good in school. And a teacher would have came to me and said, no, and she addressed the whole class. And she said, I can't believe y'all letting this Guyanese come and get better grades than y'all. Um,
Ouch.
yeah, so I especially remember that.
Yeah.
And in school, like, I just used to make a lot of jokes in regards to being Guyanese, etc. So I used to play off. So I didn't get like a lot of like insults or any like bad remarks from my colleagues because I was very proud of my Guyanese heritage, and there wasn't much that they could do to shake me. I do agree in regards to there being like a very like shaky environment in regards to Guyanese. I think it was about 10 years ago. And I think a lot like politicians and government etc. used to run on the premise of like sending Guyanese back home,
Yeah.
and that very staunch immigration policy that we are seeing even at this point. So
Yes.
Barbados came even before that
Yes.
in
Yes.
regards to sending the Guyanese home.
Yes.
And it was very difficult I guess for my mother at that point in time and her friends, because many persons, although like they would have come here like for a better opportunity,
Yeah.
persons were kind of like targeting them, etc. So I actually know of households where the entire house kind of got raided and everybody was sent back to Guyana at certain points in time.
Yeah.
Even from like neighbors that you really thought you trusted would have sent persons to immigration, or they would use it as a threat in certain cases. Like I think that we were threatened a few times. We weren't here illegally, but it was still kind of a shock to hear at that
Yeah.
specific point in time.
I have
We
a specific memory of doing first year in university, doing group week, and it was me and my friends, so two Trinidadians and the rest being Bajans, and they started to fight, and they just had to use the word. They were just calling the other person, "You must be a Guyanese," and they were just going on, and I was just down there like, "What is happening?" in this class, like I thought we were supposed to be adults in university. Why? And we're studying social work, but yet we're using somebody else's nationality as an insult.
Yeah, at some point in time, it was like a slur.
Yeah.
It was a slur to the Chinese. So it was a very weird time at that point in time. And I'm just happy that we are in a different space right now. Because I do know that if like something was that, if something like that was to happen, that person will probably be called out at this point in time. So I'm just happy that we're in a different
I'm
space.
glad that it hasn't hampered you and stopped you from wanting to do good, but instead you continue to dedicate your life to service.
I'm so very grateful, and I remain grateful to my support system in Barbados. I guess that's outside my immediate family, and to Barbados itself, because it has given me the opportunity to be where I am in regards to like free education, where we went through the whole entire education system for free. Obviously, like healthcare, etc. Like everything, a lot of services in Barbados are of quality and are free. And I know that I'm not exactly sure if I would have been in this position if I was elsewhere. So I'm very grateful and appreciative of that.
Okay. So we talk about all your hats that you have, and now you're grateful that you could wear at least 5 hats minimum, which means you have to be good at project management and program management. You want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, it's still a skill that I'm developing. Because obviously I would have learned the skill primarily through like volunteerism. I think where I would have first like actively developed it was in an organization called the United Youth Leaders of Barbados, and so we often used to do like very small projects. At some point in time, that you will get in a positions like where you're doing projects for the organization, you're planning it, you're conceptualizing it. We have retreats, persons with like what do you call it, like pitch decks.
Yeah.
Yeah, where persons would kind of like go through it and give it marks and tell you what you have to improve on, etc. So that was my first kind of trial and error with project management, and I really like it. So now everything I do kind of has some sort of aspect in it. Equals, of course, one family program. I used to work as a youth program commissioner as well, so that was incorporated when I was planning projects and initiatives for young people. Scouts. So everything I do right now has that specific aspect.
And you learn as you go with the
For
project.
sure.
Man.
At some point in time, probably going to try and do the certificate, but right now it's really just being hands-on experience in regards to it, and I like it. I
You
really
like it? What about it that you enjoy?
I think my mind is chaotic. I like I want to I don't know how to describe it. Like my mind is always all over the place, and it gives me something to really like focus on. I kind of like to see all the pieces and how I could get them together and how things like run out, and yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Kainos Caribbean, a consultancy dedicated to helping you do good better. From grant writing to project management, Kainos Caribbean provides the common sense steps to turn your passion into a powerful, well run organization. We help you cut through the jargon to find the right path to creating real lasting change. Visit kainoscaribbean.com to see how we could help your organization thrive. So even with your project management, how do you bring that into the work that you do with the Boy Scouts?
Um, so I've been in Scouts for about 20 years.
Oh.
When I first I went to the Bay Primary School, and they used to have Scouts. I think it was every Thursday, but Boy Scouts. And I started watching it in reception, and I used to beg the Cub Scout leader in order to join, but I was too young. But I was there for like 3 years from infants A No, I think from reception, if it's beyond, at some point, then she took pity on me, and I joined the organization a year earlier than I was supposed to,
Okay.
and I was in the organization from then straight onto my current age.
Okay.
So I would have gone through Cub Scouts, then it was Scouts, and then it was Venture Scouts, and eventually I became the youth commissioner of the organization, the national youth commissioner. Yeah, so it's been a journey. I've been awarded, I think, at each section of the program, the highest award in that specific section.
Congratulations.
Yes. So the first was the Mahogany Award, and that was Cub Scouts. Then it was the Chief Scout Award, and I only recently would have been awarded the Venture Scout Platinum Award. So that's the
Wow.
highest award in the youth section of the Barbados Boy Scouts Association. So it's been challenging,
Yeah.
but I have made core memories that like I really will never forget. I've made like countless friends, a network, both locally and regionally and globally as well. Scouts has carried me all over the world. I went to Sharjah in the UAE,
Wow.
Dubai, Panama, Colombia,
Which one was your favorite?
Sharjah. Yeah, that was that experience. Curacao. I've been all over the world with Scouts. And I'm just very grateful for the experiences and the knowledge that it's given me over the years. Um, I've gained a lot of mentorship and guidance as well from leaders. The leader that really got me through the organization, he used to buy like my uniforms for me, etc. When I couldn't afford it, etc. He unfortunately passed, but
Oh.
he was a father figure to me that I can't express my gratitude enough for.
Yeah.
And there's been like many other leaders as well that's really been pushing me towards like
So you had a lot of men that helped shape you as well, any scouts.
yes, and but women as well.
Okay.
So they were very consequential in who I am once again. So the Boy Scouts Association itself, I don't know how much I owe myself to the organization, but it's just an association or a group that I would convince or try to convince everybody to get their child into or to join, because their preconceived notions of what is lame, etc., etc. But it's just a very very good organization to be involved in. Like you do a lot.
I don't know if it's my ignorance or what, but to me, I hear more about the cadets in Barbados than the scouts.
The Collect is a military group.
Uh-huh.
Scouts is more paramilitary, and
Okay.
obviously like men will be attracted to like the guns and like the cool uniform, etc.,
Yeah.
etc. I think the Scouts is more of like a personal development
Okay.
organization, so we focus a lot on like um communication, like teamwork, camaraderie. That's more what we focus on rather than like the marching, etc., etc. So when I think when young men are looking for like something that kind of affirms their like masculinity, or that kind of parallels to what masculinity looks like in the Caribbean region, that's more definitely more cadets.
Okay.
I think Scouts for me, Scouts has been the same thing. It's just a bit different. So I think it teaches you. It may teach you the same thing just in different ways.
So how do we look at that in the lens of being a MPhil gender student? When you talk about the masculinity and the Caribbean era of it, but how do we unpack that? How do we say is one better than the other, or is that not the lens that we use for this?
I don't as a gender as a person studying gender, like, I see it in a lot of things that occur. And I think like when you look at like scouts and cadets, it's mainly like how we talk about masculinity in the Caribbean. So, for example, we see like men are the main perpetrators of crime, etc. When you look at masculinity, that's what we are kind of like pushing them towards, because like we're telling them to be like overly assertive, dominant, aggressive, etc. And there's nothing that kind of like perpetuates that or kind of like embodies those specific characteristics more than the gun. So obviously, like when a man is looking at what society is telling him to be, and then when you look at the things that like have like the guns and the aggressiveness
Yeah.
and the dominance, etc., you could gravitate a bit more towards cadets. Because when you go into the school, when you went into a secondary school, the cadets only passed to like
Yeah,
shouting
yeah.
and screaming, etc., etc. You're like, yeah, this is what it's supposed to be. This is what it's supposed to look. Particularly like, if you are like being insulted operating and somebody telling you that you're not man enough, etc.
Yeah.
That's where you go gravitate towards.
Yeah.
Because you want a person to be there, all right, I align myself with the characteristics or the values of what a man is supposed to be. Well, like for scouts, I was doing like kayaking and I was like hiking and like doing backwards cooking, etc. Which are like skills for me that like I
What's
still
backwards
use.
cooking?
Backwards cooking is like when you use you're not using like the stove, etc. So
Okay.
you're making a fire, you're using like the oh my god the backwards utensils, etc. To cook in. So you're not using like any like appliances or anything of this sort.
Okay.
So that's some of the stuff that we were doing, etc. And that doesn't align with the current perceptions or notions of masculinity as much as the guns, etc., etc. So there's some sort of like cognitive dissonance in regards to like what we want of men in regards to for men not to be violent, etc. And then like what we push them towards is obviously not it's not a downplay of what cadets is. I'm not saying that cadets is um
No, no, no.
overly aggressive
No,
or
no,
anything of the
no, no,
sort.
no,
Cadets
no.
teaches etiquette, etc., through what they're learning. I'm just saying that when young men or when persons decipher or interpret masculinity, that's then what they're prescribed on to cadets, and
Okay.
that's why they would.
And you see the connection from your work with Boy Scouts, because it sounds very similar to what you're doing with the development project. We're trying to offer them a different type of masculinity and offer them a different approach to conflict resolution and a different approach to how they present themselves in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so all your work with Boy Scouts is volunteer.
Yes.
Yeah. And but then you have the paid opportunities.
Yes.
So how do you not? Because like that's one thing about doing good. It doesn't always want to pay the bills.
Yeah.
The kindness runs so far until Light and Power is looking at you, wanting to know. So, how are you paying this bill?
Um. Well, I volunteer, of course, and then I do engage in paid work. And opportunities for like payments, etc., comes in regards to grants, etc. When persons understand that like this is like a lot of heavy lifting that you have to do, but bills still have to be paid. I think sometimes when persons look at volunteerism and helping people, they think that it's only from generosity or kindness if you're not being compensated. But I can't go into the bank, etc., and say, I've helped so and so persons. I want so and so money. That's not how it's work. And I think even like when I was deep into advocacy and volunteerism at some point in time, I was like, I'm helping people so much. I'm giving my time and my resources, etc. But the question remains is who's going to help me? So at some point in time, you have to take a step back from volunteerism some point in time and see like how you can still mix being able to live and being able to help persons as well. So I think it's a idea that has to change in society and that you can't do good like before being able to get good for yourself. Like you should be able to
Yeah.
better life and enjoy life as well. So that's where it is at this point in time. So, for example, working at the You Want Family program is my paid job. And I think, I assume that I help persons in my job as much as I can. So it's a slope in regards to how persons view volunteerism or view us
Yeah.
helping persons, and then like the lives of persons who actually help persons.
Yeah. I mean, I've always wanted to do good. Like I wanted to own a children's home and that kind of stuff. And everybody was just like, "Oh, so you're planning to marry rich? Like, what is your plan?" And I remember one person was like, "No, you do that when you retire. You don't do that as a life. But you've managed to do good as a life, and also managed to balance between the volunteer and the paid work." What would be some tips that you have to somebody who's coming into doing good and they want to be to do paid good work as well?
It's I think it's difficult. I think it's one of those fields that you have to go in it from the kindness of your heart and not one where you're looking for money because there's no money here for you. Like you get money where you can probably like pay bills, etc. But you're not like getting like the amount of money that you would get like if you are like a CEO or like a lawyer, etc., etc. You just have to be very strategic in what you do. Sometimes it's okay to say no for certain opportunities. Like some people will try to exploit you, or they will try to overuse you because they themselves understand that when you volunteer or when they use the word volunteer, that you should expect not to be paid or compensated for your time. So that is what you're going to experience, and you have to see what opportunities are best for you in order to be able to like pay your bills.
But I
And
mean, I want to challenge you a bit because you say that, and then we see the technocrats, and they are getting very well paid 13-month salaries plus benefits and whatnot. So is it a matter of that there's no money, or is it a matter of choosing the area or the race that you're going to do in this sector?
there's I guess room for our persons. Usually the technocrats are the persons who, for example, are writing the grant proposals, etc. So they are going to put in caveats within that proposal for them to be compensated. So it's for you either to become a technocrat yourself and to kind of like change the system a bit. Because for example, like when I write proposals for the organization that I'm in, I make sure that how the monies are set up that everybody can be compensated for their time. So sometimes like when I if I was to get like funds and the tell person, you know, I have these funds for you for doing so and so, like they're shocked because they're not accustomed to being
Yeah,
compensated for
yeah.
what they have to do. So it's for you to get yourself in these positions. So a lot of persons in the advocacy field or in the that are advocates or activists don't understand that when you're engaged in this work, like you're building an experience where you could consult, or you could lend your service, or you could write proposals yourself and send in. So it's just to be very strategic in what you're doing. So, for example, based upon my many years of service, like I write proposals now. Like it's not something that I expected to do, but persons look at like my CV or they look at the things that I've done
Yeah.
and they realize that I am, for example, a trustworthy person. Like I'm able to manage programs or projects, etc. And they are able to trust me to do certain things. And I don't think that a lot of persons in the field understand like the things that they are doing is actual work. I think sometimes we've used voluntarism, or advocacy or
Could you go?
activism.
Sorry, I need to pause
Sorry.
there, and I need you to unpack that because that was a heavy line that a lot of people who are doing good don't realize what they're doing.
So I think it's just because how persons have kind of made it seem as though it's mandatory, and it is phenomenal and commendable work as well. But a lot of persons don't do it, and they don't do it because it takes your time, it takes energy, it takes resources as well. And many times we don't give the props to persons who go out of their way to do these things. There are persons that are working several jobs, they have families, you got a bunch of
Yeah.
responsibilities, but you're still engaging in voluntarism because somebody has to do it. And because somebody has to do it, it's work. Like
Yep.
somebody, for example, has to pick up the garbage, somebody has to be in the hospital,
Yep.
somebody has to teach. And at that same point in time, somebody has to be there to assist persons who are vulnerable and need assistance. And that can't
Exactly.
always be voluntarism. Because if it always is voluntarism, at some point in time, people will say, well, I need to be able to get into a position where I can make money. And they're going to leave the field. I mean, everybody leaves the field, then what?
Then what? And our sector is indispensable.
It is.
We are holding together the that we're holding together that space where private sector and public sector don't aren't able to reach. We're holding that together, and we're making sure that these people have the resources that they need, whether it be the food hampers or whether it be the learning the technical skills, teaching them that. So definitely we can't just walk away, and we also can't just survive on volunteerism. There is a need to ensure that persons are paid. There's a need to ensure that persons are not looked down on because they're doing it from just learning. They're just doing it because it's grassroots. But instead of preaching or instead of looking down, being more of a helping hand. So not necessarily everybody wants to be a technocrat. Like I love being in touch with the NGOs on the ground and working with them, that kind of thing. And you sound like if you love actually working with the men and the young people in the various areas, like you want to be on ground. And I remember earlier you talked about not necessarily having the best boundaries,
Yeah.
which is something that we often struggle with when we're doing good. Um, and but how do you celebrate your wins? Do you
Um,
celebrate your wins?
I just had a conversation with a friend actually, and I was saying, I feel that I do so much that sometimes when I get a win, it's more a relief that it's over than it
Ah,
is me celebrating. Well, I did this or I did something. So once again, this is something that I'm working on. So there's benefits to being in this space, to being able to help people, but sometimes it is disadvantageous to like how you view like the world, etc., etc. Because when one thing is done, something else
You
is
just on to the
yes,
next.
it's just
You
on its own.
don't.
So I think all of this ties into like being able to um, balance the amount of things that I'm doing, and then although I do it, I think well, I don't do it perfectly.
Mhm.
So that is definitely something that I have to really work on being able to like celebrate wins, etc. But I do once again my support system that if I do celebrate it, they'll celebrate it for me. So
The
yeah.
village. It's so important to have a village. And I just remembered on season one, Leanne Worrell said to tell Rondell to sleep. Have you have you been able to get more sleep?
No, no, but it's a work in progress. Like
Okay.
I'm doing certain things. Like school will end at some point in time. When school
Mhm.
ends, like now, take give me some time back on my hands, etc.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of building the things that I want. Like kind of building my house brick by brick.
Like I feel
Um,
like not because when you do an MPhil, that means you're gonna upgrade to a
who
PhD.
knows? Well,
Because I started as the
I,
MPhil and I was like, I'm not gonna upgrade to a PhD, so I'm just gonna switch over.
yeah, I've already been thinking about it, but at this point, I rest when I'm 40. But yeah, I'm once again I'm still working on some kinks, in my life in regards to like being able to rest, etc. But I just really love what I do like so much that
The
I kind of
passion, the perseverance, and
yeah
determination.
I kind of compare the benefits to the I guess things that persons may find to be disadvantageous to me, and I feel like the benefits right now are outweighing, or my passion to the game is outweighing like things like I guess sleep. It's not that awful that like I'm not sleeping at all. I will not get 8 hours when I get seven. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So if you had one piece of advice to up and coming do gooder, what would it be?
Understand your boundary. For sure. For sure. You could. It's important to do good, but it's also important to do good for you as
Mm.
well. And that's something that I had to learn. It was some people will come and they will try to like put things on you, that they know that you can't handle, but somebody has to do it once again, or they know that you're doing phenomenal work and they want to for you to be able to assist them as well, and you have to be able to say no when it's time to say no. Many times I think as volunteers or as persons in this space, we give our number um, indiscriminately.
Yes.
So for persons, even when I would like say, or I could take a break or I'm on vacation, I get an email, somebody
I
calling me.
had someone calling me from Boxing Day to New Year's,
Yeah,
and I was like, "You cannot be serious right now."
people calling you at 9, 10 in the night for assistance. There's just a lot of things that are happening, and you as somebody in the space have to be able to set boundaries and tell people no. Sometimes they'll paint you as the worst person for sure,
Hmm.
but you are just as important as the people that you are helping. So you gotta be able to like manage your time, your resources, your mental capacity, your physical capacity, etc.
All right, thank you so much, Rondell, for being here. Definitely loved your toolkit of perseverance, reflection, and determination. You truly showed us how coming from a household of kindness has led to your service of doing good and ensuring that everything you do, challenging Caribbean masculinity and ensuring that love is love and that you're able to represent those who don't have a who aren't able to speak for themselves. Thank you so much for your time today on the Doing Good podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. I always think that the conversations are important to be had because I hope that I would encourage somebody to also pick up volunteerism a bit, advocacy, or just to reflect on like how they are giving back to society. It's always a pleasure to have the conversations. And I think that the questions actually made me reflect a bit more and think about the things that I'm doing and how I may need to like slow down a bit or like just celebrate my wins, etc., etc. So
Celebrate those
yeah,
wins.
I'm
We're gonna work on that. Okay, that's something we need to work on.
so I'm very grateful for the conversation. It was great being here.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the Doing Good podcast. If you found value in this conversation, please subscribe. You could find every episode of the Doing Good podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you get your audio. For video contents and all the show notes, including links to Rondell Trim's work, visit our YouTube channel at Kainos Caribbean. Be sure to follow us on social media at Kainos Caribbean, Instagram, and LinkedIn to stay up to date on season 2 episodes and join the conversation. Until next time, keep doing good. This episode is brought to you by Kainos Caribbean, a consultancy dedicated to helping you do good better. From grant writing to project management, Kainos Caribbean provides the common sense steps to turn your passion into a powerful, well run organization. We help you cut through the jargon to find the right path to creating real lasting change. Visit kainoscaribbean.com to see how we could help your organization thrive.